In the shadow of the 19th century, a man emerged who would forever change the way we think about existence, morality, and the human condition. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher, poet, and provocateur who dared to question everything. He declared God dead, challenged the foundations of morality, and called on humanity to embrace the chaos of life. But who was Nietzsche, really? What drove him to such radical ideas? And what can his philosophy teach us about ourselves and the world we live in today? This is not just the story of a philosopher, it's a journey into the abyss of human existence. Friedrich Nietzsche was born on October 15, 1844, in the small town of Recurrence, Germany. His father, Karl Ludwig Nietzsche, was a Lutheran pastor, and his mother, Franziska, came from a long line of clergymen. From the very beginning, Nietzsche's life was marked by both brilliance and tragedy. His father died when Nietzsche was just 5 years old, leaving him to be raised in a household dominated by women: his mother, sister, grandmother, and 2 aunts. This early loss of his father, coupled with the strict religious environment of his upbringing, would shape Nietzsche's lifelong struggle with meaning and mortality. As a child, Nietzsche was deeply introspective, often lost in thought. He was also a prodigy, excelling in music, literature, and classical studies. By the age of 24, he had earned a doctorate in philology and was appointed a professor at the University of Basel, a remarkable achievement for someone so young. But beneath the surface of his success, Nietzsche was restless. He was a man haunted by questions that no one else seemed to be asking. What is the meaning of life in a world without God? How do we find purpose in the face of suffering? These questions would become the driving force behind his philosophy. Nietzsche's early works, like The Birth of Tragedy, explored the tension between 2 forces in human culture: the Apollonian, representing order and reason, and the Dionysian, representing chaos and passion. For Nietzsche, true art and life emerged from the interplay of these forces. He believed that Greek tragedy, with its blend of structure and ecstasy, represented the pinnacle of human creativity. But Nietzsche's ideas were radical and often misunderstood. His colleagues dismissed The Birth of Tragedy as unscientific, and Nietzsche found himself increasingly isolated in the academic world. This isolation only deepened his resolve to break free from traditional ways of thinking. In 1879, at the age of 34, Nietzsche resigned from his professorship due to poor health. He spent the next decade wandering Europe, living in boarding houses and writing some of his most famous works, including Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Beyond Good and Evil, and On the Genealogy of Morals. It was during this period that Nietzsche's philosophy truly came to life. One of Nietzsche's most shocking ideas was his declaration that God is dead. But what did he mean by this? Nietzsche wasn't celebrating the death of God. He was warning us about the consequences. For centuries, religion had provided meaning and moral structure to human life. But as science and reason began to dominate, Nietzsche saw that humanity was losing its moral compass. Without God, he asked, what would give life meaning? Nietzsche's answer was the will to power, the driving force behind all human behavior. He believed that every individual has the potential to create their own values, to rise above the herd mentality, and to become what he called the Übermensch, or overman. The Übermensch is someone who embraces life's challenges, creates their own meaning, and lives authentically in a world without absolutes. But Nietzsche's concept of the will to power is often misunderstood. It's not about domination or brute strength. It's about self-mastery and the relentless pursuit of one's highest potential. Nietzsche believed that true greatness comes from overcoming adversity, from transforming suffering into strength, and from creating something beautiful out of chaos. Another cornerstone of Nietzsche's philosophy is the idea of the eternal recurrence. Imagine, Nietzsche said, that one day a demon whispered to you, "This life, as you now live it, you will have to live again and again in infinite repetition." How would you react? Would you despair, or would you embrace it? For Nietzsche, the eternal recurrence was the ultimate test of how much we truly love our lives. It challenges us to live in such a way that we would willingly repeat every moment, every joy, and every suffering for eternity. It's a call to live with intention, passion, and authenticity. This idea is both terrifying and liberating. It forces us to confront the choices we make and the values we hold. Are we living a life we can be proud of? Or are we merely going through the motions, trapped in a cycle of mediocrity? Nietzsche's eternal recurrence is a reminder that every moment matters, that every decision shapes who we are and who we will become. Nietzsche was deeply critical of traditional morality, which he saw as a tool of the weak to control the strong. On the Genealogy of Morals, he distinguished between master morality and slave morality. Master morality, he argued, is rooted in strength, pride, and self-affirmation. It celebrates qualities like courage, nobility, and excellence. Slave morality, on the other hand, is born out of resentment and seeks to suppress individuality and excellence. It values qualities like humility, meekness, and obedience. Nietzsche believed that modern society was dominated by slave morality, which he saw as life-denying. He called for a revaluation of all values, urging humanity to create new, life-affirming values that celebrate creativity, power, and individuality. This was not a call for anarchy or selfishness. It was a call for authenticity and self-mastery. Nietzsche wanted us to break free from the chains of conformity and to become who we truly are. In 1889, Nietzsche suffered a mental breakdown from which he never recovered. He spent the last 11 years of his life in silence, cared for by his sister. Some say his madness was the result of syphilis. Others believe it was the weight of his own ideas that broke him. But Nietzsche's legacy endured. His works, though often misunderstood, have influenced thinkers, artists, and writers for over a century. From existentialism to postmodernism, Nietzsche's ideas continue to challenge and inspire. Thinkers like Martin Heidegger, Michel Foucault, and Jacques Derrida have drawn on Nietzsche's critiques of truth and morality. Artists like Frida Kahlo and Friedrich Nietzsche have been inspired by his exploration of suffering and creativity, and writers like Hermann Hesse and Thomas Mann have grappled with his vision of the Übermensch. So, what can Nietzsche teach us today? In a world that often feels chaotic and meaningless, Nietzsche's philosophy offers a radical alternative. He challenges us to create our own meaning. In a world without absolutes, we have the power to define our own values and purpose. Embrace struggle. Nietzsche believed that suffering is not something to avoid, but something to embrace, as it makes us stronger. Live authentically. The Übermensch is a call to live boldly, to reject conformity, and to become who we truly are. Question: everything. Nietzsche reminds us to critically examine the beliefs and values we take for granted. Nietzsche's philosophy is not for the faint of heart. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to confront the darkest aspects of ourselves and the world. But for those who are willing to take the journey, Nietzsche offers a path to freedom, creativity, and self-discovery. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." In a world that often feels uncertain, Nietzsche's words remind us that the search for meaning is not just a philosophical exercise. It's the essence of what it means to be human. His legacy is a call to embrace life in all its chaos and beauty, to rise above the ordinary, and to create a life worth living. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the mind of Friedrich Nietzsche. If you found this exploration of his life and philosophy enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, keep seeking the light within the night.